If you look at technological development, maybe we've been at it, whatever you want to call it, 100, 200 years, Industrial Revolution. But you see, look at some planet and some creatures that got it together, and they were able to build technology over millions of years. They're doing star travel. I have the certainty in my own being that there's millions of people doing interstellar travel. It's just the way it is.
If the Russians had UFO technology, I mean, they would own us right now. They used to say that, I've heard people talk about how the Nazis had it in the Second World War, that if they did, they would have won. That is ridiculous. It has to be something that's out of our galaxy. Clearly something's going on that we can't handle. I mean, UFOs were in the Bible. Read Ezekiel. It talks about the wheel flying around. So, I mean, they've been around since we've been around, and somebody needs to come up with some answers. They ought to take it serious. The American public wants to know.
A lot of people say, well, maybe it's Russia or China. But some of the things that have been publicly talked about, we know for a fact from the intelligence community, we have high confidence that things like transmedium properties and hypersonic speed, meaning vehicles that go at 5 times the speed of sound, or Mach 5, Russia and China clearly didn't have those in 2004 when some of these things were cited and recorded. And so we need to get explanations for them.
Were there sightings of these before the United States possessed nuclear technology?
There were anecdotal sightings, but really there seems to be a significant uptick. Once the United States and other countries really entered into the atomic age, we began to see an increased uptick, what appeared to be some sort of reconnaissance or surveillance of our nuclear technology, our nuclear development, whether it's power or propulsion or weapon systems and related technology.
Yeah. You're on the Intel committee. Bigger thing to worry about, if it's a foreign government or if it's aliens.
Oh, option B, much bigger thing to worry about.
You think the aliens would be worse?
I'm not really a betting man, but the way these things operate, you know, they certainly, you wouldn't want a human being or any living creature in something that moves that fast and changes direction that quickly.
Confirms these are images of objects it can't identify. Lieutenant Graves told us pilots training off the Atlantic coast see things like that all the time.
Every day for at least a couple of years.
Wait a minute, every day for a couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
We've learned that there are lots of occurrences of unidentified flying phenomenon. We don't know what they are, and what we have learned is that we haven't had a dozen of these unidentified flying objects. We haven't had 100, but thousands of them, and that's all been identified. I don't know what they are. We should continue scientifically try to figure out what this is all about.
We clearly are vulnerable, and this has been going on for too long. Finally, our Congress is learning of this situation. They're beginning to react. It is very concerning. It's not an imminent crisis or imminent threat. There's been no hostility, but there's a lot of activity, and it's increasingly bold. In some instances, recently we've had these things swarming around warships off the coast of California, swarming around strategic missile defense bases in Guam and other things.
What do you think the source could potentially be of this? What makes the most sense to you?
Well, it's going to surprise some people, but what makes the most sense doesn't seem to be any of our adversaries or near-peer technology. In 2004, what we witnessed there showed us all of what Luis Elizondo calls the 5 observables, which definitely indicate an exotic technology.
What is the concern of the president that this phenomenon seems to occur in the national security apparatus?
Well, I think broadly speaking, the fact that we have a team that's actively working on a report, certainly the safety of our personnel, security of our operations, our airspace are of paramount concern, whether that is identified or unidentified aircraft, and we don't discuss that publicly.
Why generations of military officials felt the need to cover this up?
If you want to call it a cover-up, it began in the 40s, 50s, 60s during the Cold War. I think there's been a concern about what to tell people when you can't explain something. there's something, operating with impunity that shows very advanced technology. What do you tell people about that when you can't stop it, when you can't explain it? And I think there's also just there's a stigma, Tucker, that you're well aware of. You've been one of the people battling this stigma.
We keep hearing whispers that there is physical evidence of the existence of these objects that might tell us what they are. Do you believe that's true?
I do believe it's true.
Is there debris, do you believe, from any of these vehicles, whatever they are?
Tucker, the United States government is in possession of exotic material, and I'll leave it at that.
I think that in this century, we will make contact with an extraterrestrial civilization.
Have you said that trying to make contact with alien civilizations may not be a great idea?
It's a bad idea to advertise our existence. So I think it's a good idea to keep our presence a secret so that the aliens don't put us in their sights. Who knows what the aliens believe in?
What do you think is the most likely hypothesis? When people talk about it, is there other life besides what's in the States in the world? I think some of the phenomena we're going to be seeing continues to be unexplained and might in fact be some type of phenomenon that is the result of something that we don't yet understand and that could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life.